The wait is almost over, Chargers fans. We're just days away from real football returning, and training camp is already delivering fireworks. But before we jump into the latest updates, big rumors, and crazy developments, do me a quick favor, smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the bell icon so you never miss out on any Chargers news. Now, let's dive into it. One name is making waves across the NFL, Christian Wilkins. Yes, the same Wilkins who dominated in Miami with 8+ sacks and was expected to bring that fire to the Raiders. But guess what? He's been cut, released, gone. And now the internet is buzzing. Should the Chargers make a move? Many fans are asking, would Wilkins help our defensive line? Is he a fit in Harbaugh's system? Let's slow down and look at what's really going on. Jim Harbaugh's been putting serious focus on the D-line this camp. Remember how shaky the interior was last season? It's already looking stronger, tougher, faster, more aggressive. The big guys up front are starting to click. And if you add someone like Wilkins into the mix, that could take this defense to the next level. But is it worth the risk after how things went down with the Raiders? We'll break that down next. And look at what's happening at Chargers camp right now that has fans fired up. So here's the deal. The Raiders cut Christian Wilkins and walked away from $35 million in guaranteed money. That's not a small mistake. That's a massive statement. Wilkins didn't follow their rehab plan. There were reports of him skipping certain medical steps, refusing an extra surgery, and even being spotted joking around in the gym when he was supposed to be recovering. Now, from the outside, that might not sound too serious. But to an NFL team investing millions in your recovery, that's a red flag. And it clearly upset the Raiders front office enough to pull the plug completely. Now Wilkins is fighting back. He's filed a grievance with the NFLPA, saying the team owes him the money. He's frustrated. He's angry. And honestly, he feels betrayed. This whole situation is full of tension. A Pro Bowl level talent suddenly out on the street, in the middle of a football war zone. And here's where it gets interesting for the Chargers. Fans are flooding in with questions like, should we go after him? Can Harbaugh fix this? Is this the kind of splash move the Bolts need? It's wild to think about. Adding someone of Wilkins' caliber for practically nothing. You'd shake the AFC. You'd drive Raiders fans crazy. That alone would be worth it, right? But here's the catch. It's a gamble. Where is Wilkins really at, physically? Did his refusal to follow the Raiders' rehab plan slow down his recovery? Would the Chargers even trust that he's ready to contribute this season? Now, if he could be ready by mid-season or even late in the year, it changes everything. Because one thing's for sure, the Chargers training staff today isn't what it used to be. Ben Herbert's squad is among the best in the league, no joke. If anyone could help a player like Wilkins get back on track and back to dominance, it's them. So no, nothing's official. But the door? It's slightly open. And man, the idea of watching Wilkins suit up in powder blue and punish his former team? You can't lie, that would be epic. Alright Chargers fans, let's actually imagine this for a second. Christian Wilkins, in powder blue. Sounds crazy, right? But the more you look at it, the more it starts to make sense. Let's be honest, the man is angry. And nothing motivates a top-tier athlete like revenge. The tension between Wilkins and the Raiders is real. If he ever had a reason to sign with a rival, this is it. And you better believe he'd love the chance to line up twice a year against the silver and black, just to make them regret ever letting him go. Now here's where things get even more interesting. Wilkins wouldn't demand a monster deal right now. He'd probably settle for a short, prove-it contract, something low risk for the Chargers, high reward for him. And that's the kind of move GM Joe Hordas lives for. Yes, there are concerns. The rehab drama, the skipped surgery, the questions about attitude. But the Chargers have quietly become the NFL's redemption zone. Look around the roster. This team has taken in players who were once written off and helped turn them around. Just this offseason, they added Nyheim Hines, a talented back who hasn't seen real action in years. And already, he's flashing in camp. This isn't just a team. It's a place where players find their second wind. And if Wilkins wants to get back on track, LA might be the perfect place. Don't believe it? Just look at what's happening with Tart. A few years ago, he was bouncing around, Titans, Texans, Dolphins, no team seemed willing to keep him. Why? Whispers of poor work ethic. Not enough drive. Bad fit. But no. Tart is turning heads at Chargers camp. He's outworking people. He's dominating reps. And suddenly, he looks like a legit force on the D-line. So if you're wondering whether the Chargers could help Christian Wilkins bounce back, they've already done it with guys like Tart. And that alone makes the idea a whole lot more realistic. Let's be real, even if Christian Wilkins came back at just half of what he was in Miami, that's still a scary good player. In 2023, he racked up 9 sacks as a defensive tackle. That's elite territory. So yeah, if the Chargers could get even 60 to 70% of that version, total game changer. And even if that dream doesn't come true, here's the silver lining. We don't have to face him this year. Because early in the offseason, the idea of Wilkins and Max Crosby lining up across from Justin Herbert was straight up terrifying. Now, that threat is gone, and we get to focus on building something dangerous of our own. Let's talk about training camp, and more specifically, the defensive line, which is quietly turning into one of the most exciting position groups on this roster. Let's start with Tart, a guy we just praised for his turnaround. What he's doing at camp right now isn't just promising, it's eye-opening. And here's the thing, we've seen this story before. Last season, Poona Ford joined the Chargers with little fanfare. He was seen as a short-term depth piece, maybe a guy to plug in for a few snaps here and there. But what happened? He balled out. Ford became one of the most reliable and disruptive interior linemen on the team, and earned himself a well-deserved deal with the Rams afterward. Now, it feels like Tart is following that same path. He's holding his own against some big boys at camp, slipping past Mekhi Becton, stuffing the run against Omari Hampton, and getting pressure right in Herbert's face. This isn't just a feel-good comeback. Tart looks like a real contributor, maybe even a breakout star in Jesse Minter's 2025 defense. And Minter's already praising him, saying Tart is in his element. His ceiling? Way higher than most expected when he first signed. If Tart keeps this up, don't be surprised if he becomes this season's Poona Ford 2.0, the unexpected X factor in the middle of the line. Now speaking of breakout candidates, let's shift to another name that's suddenly heating up. And if you followed our coverage, you'll know I've been calling this for a while. Heading into 2025, the door is wide open on the Chargers' defensive line. Poona Ford's gone. Morgan Fox is gone. And suddenly, there's real opportunity for young players to step in and make a name for themselves. And one guy who's making the most of it, Justin Eboib. We've been keeping an eye on him for a while, and now, the signs are finally showing. Once the pads came on at camp, his growth became impossible to ignore. Eboib hit the offseason hard, packed on nearly 20 pounds of muscle, and shifted toward playing more inside. Now working as a defensive tackle or interior end, he's holding his own in the trenches and looking stronger than ever. By camp estimates, he's weighing in around 310 pounds, and that strength is showing. He's blowing up run plays, pressuring the quarterback, and stacking highlight moments. In just one padded practice, he made 4 standout plays, bursting into the backfield, stopping running backs like Vidal and Haskins, and making life uncomfortable for the offense. This is exactly the kind of leap you want from a mid-round pick in year 2. He's going from a wait-and-see player to a real option in the rotation, but Eboib isn't the only one rising. Tito Ogbanya, another promising name, is also showing signs of real progress. He's always been solid against the run, but now his pass rush is catching up. During a recent practice, Tito helped collapse the pocket alongside Bud Dupree and forced a turnover. That's the kind of play you build confidence around. If he can stay healthy, and that's been the big if with Tito, he could finally become the complete interior lineman the Chargers hoped for when they drafted him. And the reinforcements don't stop there. Jamari Caldwell, the rookie, is flashing strong potential, especially against the run. He's still raw, but the physicality is there, and the coaching staff is clearly excited. Naquan Jones, too, had a solid outing in camp, slipping past blockers and making key stops on the ground. Altogether, this unit, once filled with question marks, is quietly coming together. No Morgan Fox, no Poona Ford, but there's youth, depth, and competition. And that might be exactly what this group needed: a fresh start, and hungry players ready to prove themselves. Let's make one thing clear: the Chargers' defensive line is better than expected. A group that once felt uncertain is now becoming a real strength heading into 2025. With young guys stepping up and others like Deshaun Hand quietly making noise, the rotation is deeper than many thought. And yes, while the Christian Wilkins rumor lingers in the background, the reality is this: even without him, this defense could be nasty. Now let's shift to some rapid-fire updates from training camp, because there's a lot happening, and some of it, honestly, is a bit strange. First, Najee Harris. He finally made an appearance at camp, but let's just say it raised more questions than answers. Wearing a mask and oversized goggles, Harris looked more like someone in recovery mode than ready to roll. We still don't have clarity on the injury, the rehab progress, or his availability for Week 1 against the Chiefs. Fingers crossed, but the vibe felt cautious. Meanwhile, one name that just keeps popping: Armand Gadsden. We already knew he had hands. We already knew he could stretch the field. But what's turning heads now is his blocking. This week, he sealed off a huge lane for Nyheim Hines, springing him for a 15-yard burst, the kind of play that wins over coaches fast. If Gadsden can be even a serviceable blocker to go along with his receiving skills, that's a tight end with serious upside, maybe even TE1 potential by 2026. Another rising name? Junior Colson. The moment pads came on, his intensity skyrocketed. He's playing faster, more physical, and already making splash plays, run stops, pressures, and even a likely sack. Jesse Minter, who coached him back at Michigan, sees the growth happening fast. And with Colson alongside Perryman and Henley, the linebacker room suddenly looks like a strength, something few expected this early. On the offensive side, the wide receivers are shining. Trey Harris continues to impress with sharp routes and tough grabs. But the player turning the most heads? Kendra Lambert-Smith. This guy has juice. The way he catches the ball, smooth, explosive, confident, has fans and scouts buzzing. There's a little CeeDee Lamb, a little Antonio Brown in the way he moves. If he keeps this up, the Chargers may have found a gem. Also worth noting, Zach Conklin at tight end has shown off some strong hands in traffic. And of course, Quentin Johnston is putting together another strong camp. Yes, the drops are still there occasionally, but he's already racked up around 6 to 7 touchdowns in camp. Love him or not, he's making plays. Ladd McConkey, meanwhile, looks bulked up and confident, clearly ready for a bigger role. And then there's Marion Hampton. The man is a wrecking ball. At one point in practice, he hit the sled so hard it broke. That's the kind of physicality you dream of in a power back. To top it all off, keep a close watch on Jasir Taylor. He's being called the most improved player of the entire offseason so far. At nickelback, that's a game-changing development. Bottom line? This Chargers team is starting to feel different. Deeper, tougher, hungrier. And if all these pieces keep falling into place, 2025 could be something special.